From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay.
On this farm, which is a pressurization and lift farm, I'll be saving about $75 to $80 an acre.
Using the sun to cut a big bill on the farm.
We're looking at another disastrous year for agriculture.
One economist doesn't mince words on 2019 for the ag industry in one state.
China is making signals to show that there is opportunity for progress here.
And work continues to end the U.S.-China trade war.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Today is day 2 of trade talks between the U.S. and Chinese officials. The goal continues to be to end the tariff battle between the world's two biggest economies. The talks taking place in Beijing, the American delegation being led by Jeffrey Garish. He's being joined by officials from the Agriculture and Energy departments. Now, Bloomberg's reporting China's top trade official attended the talks yesterday. President Trump expressing optimism ahead of the negotiations, saying he recently spoke with China's president, quote, "I really believe they want to make a deal. The tariffs have absolutely hurt China very badly," end quote. Some analysts believe progress is being made.
China in the past has frequently taken the requests from the U.S. government, bundled them together and refused to implement them before the conclusion of negotiations. In this case, we've actually seen some progress that China has implemented in advance of the conclusion of the negotiations. For example, we've seen new purchases of U.S. soybeans. We've seen commitments from the Chinese government to import more U.S. rice, something that hasn't happened in the past.
President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping agreed to a 90-day postponement of additional tariff increases that took effect January 1st. There's concern the ongoing trade war could do more damage to China's economy. There are signs now of it slowing down. Factory activity is down, and profits at some big industrial firms have hit their lowest point in 3 years. And a report from the investment bank UBS also raising red flags. The report saying 37% of 200 manufacturers surveyed say they have shifted out of the China market over the past 12 months, mostly due to the threat of U.S. tariff hikes. Another 33% of companies saying they plan to move out of China in the next 6 to 12 months. So are more U.S. ag products on their way to China? Well, we still don't know for sure due to the partial government shutdown. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers continue to go without pay as the shutdown moves into its 3rd week. President Trump still standing firm on his demands. He wants more than $5 billion toward building a border wall. The president did offer earlier in the week to build the wall with steel rather than concrete. It's a concession Democrats didn't like. The president due to address the nation tonight at the southern border at 9 o'clock Eastern time. In the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it's still not been able to release important reports, such as the crop production report. There has been conjecture China is purchasing additional U.S. soybeans and made a big buy of U.S. wheat last week, but without those USDA daily export sales reports, those buys are not confirmed. U.S. export inspections for soybeans show 2.5 million bushels were approved for China, but it's not known if the shipment will actually go there. But U.S. soybeans are on the move to Europe. Reuters reporting there's been a 112% rise in U.S. soybean imports in the second half of last year to the EU market. The announcement coming ahead of EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmstrom meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer today in Washington. The Commission negotiates trade deals for 28 nations in the European Union. Now, Reuters is reporting the increase is being driven by a decrease in U.S. soybean prices that happened after those Chinese tariffs kicked in. We're getting some beautiful photos as day dawns around the country. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen has more in today's Crop Comments.
Thanks, Clinton. Well, a pretty amazing start to the day in Bowling Green, Kentucky. This picture was shared with us by Bob Perkins Jr. It's just a wonderful thing to look out your window in the early morning and see something so beautiful to greet your day. Thank you, Bob, for sharing this photo with us. Remember, you can share pictures of all those sunrises and sunsets and spectacular moments in between on AgDay's Twitter and Facebook pages. Let's take a look at the winds for today. Boy, we are going to have a windy day in the nation's midsection. We are going to be seeing those winds 25 mile per hour plus in some spots, and that energy is really going to pick up and then translate a little bit to the east as we head on through the day. Tonight we see those winds still up there and moving even further to the east. So Great Lakes and on into the northeast, we're going to see those winds picking up along the west coast as well. And through the day on Wednesday, it'll be fairly windy in the northeastern quarter of the country as well as in much of the west. I'll have more on your forecast coming up, but for now, here are some hometown temps.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
The National Dairy Farm Program strives to create a culture of continuous improvement for the entire dairy industry. For more information, visit nationaldairyfarm.com.
The dairy industry standards called the Farm Program turns 10 this year. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon looks at how the rules are evolving and what's next.
I can probably just come through the gate, right?
Steve Maddox is used to having evaluations on his dairy.
Body condition score, she's got good flesh, so she'd be a 3 body condition.
The California dairy farmer didn't just sign up for it.
This is good, dry, clean bedding.
This evaluator, Antone Mickelson, and Maddox are writing guidelines and have been for a while for dairymen to follow throughout the country.
I didn't realize how good it could become and the continuing improvement and the jumps it's made.
They are a part of a technical writing group made up of veterinarians, co-ops, farmers, and animal science academics who develop standards for the farm program. The National Milk Producers Federation and Dairy Management Incorporated administer the program, which now has 98% participation from dairy farmers throughout the country. Maddox was one of the first to not only help develop, but adopt the standards after big customer companies asked for more information from the farm.
We knew we were doing a good job of managing our cattle and taking care of them. We just didn't have written proof. We didn't have a program to dictate that.
A baseline was established 10 years ago, a size-neutral approach. At that time, it was all about animal care, the oldest component of the program.
And once we understand where we're at and we do evaluations, we can look at where there's strengths and where there's opportunities to improve.
That baseline keeps evolving as attitudes and technologies are advancing too. Assessing specific areas like environmental stewardship,
there's 15 questions,
workforce development, antibiotic stewardship, and of course, animal care.
Over the past 10 years, the farm program, specifically the animal care program, has changed dramatically. We're actually in version 3 today. We're getting ready for version 4 to be launching in 2020.
Anderson says the feedback she's heard from both customer companies and consumers is continuous improvement.
If we can have a program that indicates and shows that you're going to be improving and every day you're working to do better and to do more, that is something they want to embrace and be a part of.
These companies and many more support the program and relay a message to consumers. While on the beef side, there are new partners as well, including possible improvements to its own National Beef Quality Audit Program.
While we can't directly correlate it, I think it's certainly a reason behind the progress that the dairy industry has made is their acceptance of and their willingness to adopt the practices that the farm program promotes.
Grooming's good.
As producers have audits in the program, they know what's a benchmark of how to improve even more.
No issues with hock knees or lesions on any of those, so she's a 1 there.
Today, the writers of this system also want to enhance positive improvements.
Every day when you're on farms doing evaluations and you have these discussions with dairy farmers, you learn what works and what does not work, what makes sense, what does not make sense.
And tweak new elements.
And so we need to really pursue the human resources and just continually improve that area.
All for the goal of building a better dairy industry.
As we evaluate more and more farms, we get a better understanding, we learn what works and what doesn't work.
Reporting in Riverdale, California, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Could we see milk prices climb this year? Some analysis on what it could take to make it happen coming up. And later, harnessing the power of the sun to help keep things from drying out. How one farmer is cutting costs in the country. Here at the Agribusiness Desk, we have Brian Doherty, Stuart Peterson. Brian, let's take a look at these dairy markets, because as we sit starting January 2019, we still haven't seen any big recovery in milk prices.
It's been a tough market, and I've been sort of sour on milk prices for a long time, excuse the pun, but when you look at month to month to month, increases in production, milk efficiency per cow, it's tough to get that market to make it, a turnaround. Things are changing. Prices are low enough where demand is on the grow. The global dairy trade has picked up now for the third consecutive auction.
Okay.
You're seeing some things happen. Beef prices are higher. I think producers are really feeling the pain. They're marketing cows faster, so I expect the herd to cull down a little bit, demand to increase at lower prices. And all of a sudden on charts here recently, you've got what we call a 1, 2, 3 bottom, where you put a low in, you rally up, drop back, and then rally again and take the second rally takes out that first high. So it's called a 1, 2, 3 bottom. It doesn't necessarily guarantee a bottom is in the market, but it's a nice technical signal. Couple that with expectations for solid demand and some slight drawback in the herd. We saw that on the last USDA report, that the herd was reduced. Milk per cow was still up, so the production number was up 0.6%, but the cow herd was reduced, and that's a step in the right direction for ultimately seeing a recovery in price.
How important are these trade talks in getting the milk price to climb higher?
Very important. China is one of our top 5 import countries for dairy products. The World or the Dairy Export Council is expecting and anticipating a growth somewhere of 3 to 5% in export activity over the next 3 to 5 years. That's critical to help pull prices out of this low here.
Okay.
The other, other variables, we've had stagnant corn prices forever. So if corn prices move around, my point is, I think we've got volatility coming back into the marketplace and in dairy as well.
All right. Well, it's something to watch as we get into 2019. Thank you, Brian. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779 or visit stuartpeterson.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen here, looking at, well, kind of what's on the map right in the middle. Not a lot, but out west looks like there's a big storm brewing.
Yeah, there really is, and it's kind of a slow mover because it's really tightly wound. Let's take a look. And you can see we've got this system that's off in the Pacific, but we're already starting to see some of that rain and upper elevation snow. Further to the east, we're going to be seeing some snow continuing in parts of the Northeast, especially in New England, with some rain further south. Putting this into motion, we're going to see things kind of spread to the east. You'll see that rain picking up, especially in the eastern southern parts of the lakes and into the Northeast. But again, on the northern side of that, that's going to be snow. Again, not a ton of movement with the system, but we'll see that moving inland a little bit more. So look for some heavier rains, especially out into the northern part of California, parts of Oregon, Washington as well. While in the meantime, we have high pressure and fairly dry conditions in most of the nation's midsection. That's going to continue as we get into the overnight hours. Now, we might see a little bit of rain in parts of southern and western Texas, but that's about it. Most of the activity is going to be in the northeast and then out in the northwest and along the west coast with that system that continues to move on shore. Heading through the day on Wednesday, still quiet in the nation's midsection, but we're going to see a fair amount of snow, especially for the northern parts of New England. Again, more rain and upper elevation snow for parts of the west. Let's look at the precipitation over the past 24 hours. This is where we've seen it mainly with that low pressure system in the Great Lakes. Adding on the next 24 hours, you can see how that really picks up in the northeastern United States. But look at this as we see 2-3 inches plus in parts of northern California. Now, as far as snowfall, you can see we had some in the Rockies, and we have already seen a little bit in New England, but you watch as that spreads to the northeast. So especially if you're in Maine, you're looking at a pretty decent day as far as snowfall is concerned. Temperature-wise, we're starting to see some colder air really working into some of the northern parts of the United States. We're only looking at high temperatures in the 20s this afternoon for some of the north central United States. It warms up to the 70s as you get down towards the Gulf Coast, but watch what what happens as we get into the overnight hours. Colder air continues to spread in down into the single digits for parts of North Dakota. A lot of 20s and 30s across the central parts of the country. And then tomorrow, as we look at our highs, we look at some even colder air coming in. 8 in Bismarck, 12 in Minneapolis, and that cold air continues to sink to the south. Now here's our jet stream, and you can see that we have this trough in the nation's midsection, and there you can see that wound up system out west. We're going to see that trough really affecting the northeastern part of the country over the next couple of days, but watch as we get towards the end of the week and a big ridge develops. We continue that trough in the northeast, but that big ridge will start to translate to the east into the early part of next week. That's your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Cottonwood, California, rain likely for you today and a high of 54 degrees. Velva, North Dakota, mostly sunny, windy, and much colder. We'll see a high temperature topping off around 15 degrees. Patton, Maine, turning warmer, snow likely, that high late in the day.
Can Wisconsin still claim it's top in the nation when it comes to cheese? A look at the latest numbers. That's coming up. Plus, one economist's strong words for the future of dairy in one state. Next. Not good news for the Idaho farm community to start out the new year. One economist telling state lawmakers to expect another disastrous year for agriculture. He says it will be the 5th consecutive year of down farm income, and he's forecasting it will be down 27% this year. University of Idaho economist Garth Taylor telling lawmakers the greatest gains and losses over the decade in the state have come in the livestock sector, especially in dairy.
It is not the quantity that's going down. It is the prices that are going down. And so the dairy industry still has expanded herd last year.
Taylor expects some improvement in market prices later in the year. He says maybe $1.50 above break even. The good news is he says farming continues to grow in the state faster than Idaho's GDP. What states are the top producers when it comes to milk and cheese? Well, Farm Journal's Milk reporting California remains the top milk producing state in the country. But no one comes close to Wisconsin in producing cheese. Wisconsin producing nearly 3.4 billion pounds of cheese, according to the latest records. That's 27% of the nation's cheese production. Now, California was second with 2.5 billion pounds. More than half of Wisconsin's cheese output came in the form of Italian-type cheeses. Wisconsin was also the largest cheddar cheese producer. As for milk, California produced 40 billion pounds of milk. That's 18% of the nation's total. Irrigation costs can add up fast on a farm, but some farmers are turning to the sun for help in cutting those costs. Next in the country.
In the Country, sponsored by the all-new Kubota Sidekick, a utility vehicle that lets you climb more, cover more, tow more, and enjoy more. Visit KubotaUSA.com.
While several parts of the country deal with cloudy skies this time of year, portions of Idaho boast about 230 days of sunshine per year, but just 10 inches of rain. So how do farmers keep their fields irrigated? Jake Putnam of the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation takes us to one farm along the Snake River.
Heading down Highway 51 south of Mountain Home to Bruno, one thing's for sure, there's big skies out there and lots of sunshine. More than 330 days of sunshine, and that got farmer Russell Schermeyer thinking. To make it go in bone-dry Owyhee County, he needed to cut irrigation costs.
It's probably 30 to 40% of my farming cost every year, and it's one of the biggest things that we can be more efficient about. I've in the past put a lot of money into GPS, variable rate fertilizer, variable rate planting, when I've got this giant bear of a bill every month on my power that's only getting bigger over the years.
Schermeyer farms more than 3,000 acres of corn, wheat, and hay, and they use a lot of water and a lot of power. So he set out to find a way to offset that huge power bill, and he looked to the skies for help, setting up solar panels.
Your power bill is going to be set in stone, and this is a way to insulate it because you can set your power cost with these as they're producing, and as soon as they're paid off, you've got a net bottom, and if you can live with that now, it's something that you can live with in the future. We just haven't got it to this point because we've never had the efficiencies that solar can provide in the last 2 years, the efficiencies in the panels, the tracking systems, and the inverters have just made it to where it's economically feasible to use these as tools in our irrigation system.
And so Schumacher put up the solar panels on the edge of his fields, and he started seeing offset savings in his power bill.
On this farm, which is a pressurization and lift farm, I'll be saving about $75 to $80 an acre. I believe Owyhee County, I mean, any ag area that pumps water, it's got a big opportunity because they're in the same position I am.
In a position to cut input costs and innovate renewable energy. For the voice of Idaho Agriculture, I'm Jake Putnam.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.